I'm 32 and I still don't have a driving license. I've been telling myself I'll do it for years, but here I am, still putting it off. Am I behind in life? At some point, most of us have felt this way, like we missed a deadline that everyone else seems to be able to hit on time. It's that feeling that we're out of sync with the rest of the world. But where does that feeling actually come from? And more importantly, are we really as behind as we think? Most people in the UK pass their driving test in their early 20s, but plenty don't. The number of younger drivers has actually declined in recent years, and thousands of people in their 30s, 40s, even 60s still take their test every year. So why do I feel like I've missed my chance? Probably for the same reasons many of us feel behind when it comes to other life milestones. Let's take education for example. The expectation? Go to university. Get a degree, land a great job. The reality, plenty of people return to education later in life, switch careers in their 30s, or succeed without a degree at all. The internet has made learning more accessible than ever. So will university even be relevant in the future? Let's talk about home ownership. I won't lie, this one really gets to me. The idea that we should own a home by 30 feels almost impossible. The average first-time buyer in the UK is now 34 years old, and with property prices skyrocketing, more people are renting into their 40s. Some are even moving back in with their parents, yet the old expectation still lingers, making many of us feel like we've failed in life. And what about marriage and kids? There's this traditional timeline that you should be married in your late 20s and have kids soon after. The actual timeline? The average first marriage now happens at around 32 to 34 years old, and first-time mothers are now typically 31. More people are delaying, rethinking, or skipping these milestones entirely. And honestly, a lot of people just don't feel financially stable enough to even start a family. And what about financial independence? By 30, you're supposed to have a stable career, savings, a retirement plan, but nearly 40% of people across the UK have less than £1,000 saved. Economic conditions have shifted, making financial security feel like an uphill battle for many. These numbers might seem bleak, but I think that they highlight something deeper. The sadness that comparison brings. The sadness that comparison brings. Back in college, only a handful of people that I knew actually had driving licenses. But even then, I still compared myself to those few people who did. I convinced myself that I was behind, without realising how many other people were in the same boat as me. I only noticed the people who had a licence, never the ones who didn't. And that's how comparison works. It tricks you into thinking you're the only one falling behind. It distorts our perception, makes us feel alone, and worst of all, it can lead to inaction. Instead of working towards something, we get stuck in the mindset of, I'll never catch up, so why even try? But that's the real reason people stay behind. When I was 20, I told myself that I'd be in the best shape of my life by the time I hit 21. I didn't have a plan, I just figured it would somehow happen. It didn't. I didn't take any action. By the time I was 26, I finally started going to the gym consistently. But it took years before I truly felt like that I'd achieved my goal. Back in my 20s, I just thought it would kind of happen if I went out skateboarding a few extra times. My fitness didn't change. I truly never met my wish until I was in my 30s, after that I took real action. At 26, I made going to the gym a habit, committing to it no matter how I felt. And that's when things actually started to change. I was no longer wishing, but taking action. It was only after years of taking consistent action that I truly met my goal of getting in the best shape of my life. I was just 11 years late to do it. Wishing does nothing, except perpetuates the guilt and sadness that you might feel about your current situation. Even if you don't have a perfect plan, action compounds over time. Wishing doesn't. For years, I told myself that I would get my driving license one day, but that day never came. At first I blamed the cost. £20 a lesson seemed too expensive. Since then it's now more than doubled to £50 and I still haven't started. The longer I waited, the more excuses felt like facts. I convinced myself that it wasn't a priority. I could just walk or cycle. This is how we get stuck. We tell ourselves we'll do something later. But later turns into years. We distract ourselves, avoid the discomfort, and let the fear of failure keep us in our place. It's the same pattern in other areas of life. Just think about fitness for a second. You might feel a sudden burst of motivation, walk into the gym, and immediately feel overwhelmed. You don't know how to use the machines. You feel like people are watching you. You feel stupid, so you leave. And the next time that you think about going to the gym, all you remember is that discomfort that you felt, so you don't go. This is analysis paralysis. When too many options, too much uncertainty, and too much self-doubt leads to doing nothing. I've been there, not just with the gym, but with money, career decisions, simply choosing an item off of a menu at a restaurant, everything. And the more time that you spend wishing instead of acting, the worse it feels. But the truth is, even directionless action is better than no action. If you had walked into the gym and just started moving, even without a plan, you would have learned something. If I had booked my first driving lessons years ago, even if I wasn't ready, I'd be driving by now. Progress doesn't require perfection, just movement. I used to feel like I didn't belong in a gym. I thought people would judge me. I had no plan, no idea of what I was doing. But the only reason I ever got in shape was because I decided that no matter what, I was going to show up. Not once a week when I felt like it, every week, no matter what. The difference between wishing for something and achieving something is setting priorities, not vague goals. When I was 20, I wished I had been in the best shape of my life by the time I hit 21, but I didn't do anything about it. I figured I'd skateboard a little bit more and see what happened. Nothing happened. I didn't actually commit to fitness until I was 26. It took years of consistent action to reach my goal. But the point is, I wasn't too late. I was just 11 years late. But it still happened. The same applies to anything. Whether it's saving money, changing careers, learning to drive. It all feels impossible right now. But just start small. Instead of saying, I want to get fit, say, I'm going to work out twice a week for 3 months. Instead of saying something like, I want to save money, say something like, I'm going to put away £50 a month. Small goals stack up over time. The best time to start may have been yesterday, but the second best time? That's right now. And if you feel like that you've missed your chance, you're not alone. But the idea that success has some sort of age limit, that's just not true. Some of the most successful people in history didn't make it until much later in life. For instance, Colonel Sanders franchised KFC at the age of 65 years old. Stan Lee created Spider-Man at 39. Samuel L. Jackson didn't land a major movie role until his mid-40s. These aren't just exceptions, they're proof that time limits are an illusion. But here's what really separates late bloomers from the people who stay stuck. They didn't wait to feel ready. They didn't spend years mourning lost time or dwelling on what could have been. They just started, however late that it felt. And if you think that you've wasted too much time, consider this. If you start something today, in 5 years you could be in the best shape of your life or financially stable or working a dream job. If you don't start, 5 years will pass either way. Feeling behind doesn't matter. What matters is what you choose to do next. If I'd started driving lessons years ago and set it as my priority, I'd have my license by now. But the best time to start is today. If you feel behind, don't waste time waiting and wishing for things to change. Start today, even if it's small. And if you want to see how I finally stopped coasting and started making real progress, then click this video here. If you've listened to this video the whole way through, then I think you'll like it.